Singing, everybody's certainly sounds wide awake. I hope you stay that way. Let's just start our meeting proper by putting this time to the Lord. Father in heaven, once again we come before you. Once again it is with the confidence of knowing you as our Saviour. Once again it is with we lift our hearts in praise and thanksgiving to you. And Lord, for all that who's on here this afternoon, we just pray that you would lay your hand upon it, that we may know a real sense of your blessing today. Lord, we commit ourselves to you. We look forward to what is to come. The singing, the speaking, the praising, whatever is going on, Lord, this afternoon, may it be to your glory and to your honour. And that we may indeed be strengthened and enthused to go back to our branches to serve you through Disabled Christians Fellowship. For we ask and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Right, we're starting with hymn number 560. After this, you got a wee bit of rest. We'll have to sing for a wee bit more. 566. Praise my soul, the King of heaven. Pray for DCF. We prayed once this afternoon already in our prayer time. We prayed at the commencement of this meeting. But once again we think of our branches. As I pray, it'll be a short prayer, but you think of your branch and your needs in that branch. And if there's a pause or a silence in my prayer, it's because I want you to reflect on your branch and what you want God to do in your branch. We always hope the same sorts of things, so we need helpers and this sort of thing. But just as I pray, and if there's a pause, think of the needs of your branch, whether that's transport, whether that's helpers, whether that's finance, whatever it is. Some branches sometimes find problems getting speakers or singers. Whatever your need is, just think of that and pause. So let's go once again to prayer. Heavenly Father, it is our privilege to continually pray to you. Your word says, pray without ceasing. And we thank you that you indeed instructed us to pray to you. To bring to our Heavenly Father, through the advocacy of Jesus Christ our Saviour, and none other, our needs and our requests, as well as our praise and thanksgiving. For Lord, there's never a time when we come into your presence that we can't praise and thank you for what you've done for us. We think of the words of the hymn that say, to God be the glory, great things he hath done. And Lord, you have done great things through DCF in the past. Lord, while things sometimes are difficult in our branches, there is a possibility, there's a probability of great things in the future through trusting, believing, and seeking to follow you. Therefore, as we bring Disabled Christians Fellowship Ireland to you this afternoon, may we think of our branches and our needs, and bring them to the throne of grace and ask, O Lord, that you would hear the prayers that we ask and that we offer. That indeed they may be answered according to your riches and glory, according to your bounteous blessings. Therefore, Lord, hear our prayers as we bring them to you. Lord, you have heard the prayers of our hearts. You know the aspirations we have for our branches. You know the desires that we have to see people saved through the work of DCF. You know, Lord, what we want to see happen in our branches through the blessing of people who already know you as their Saviour, that they indeed may be strengthened and blessed. We commit ourselves to you as individuals in our branches and as an organisation, that we may know your blessing. Hear then these our prayers. For Lord, we ask them all in Jesus' holy and precious name. Amen. We're delighted this afternoon to have Jackie and Tom to come and sing. For those who may have not been in the prayer time, we're also delighted to have Gillian Stevenson, who is a diocesan lay leader. It was meant to be according to your programme, Reverend Pierce. Unfortunately, he is in Dublin at the moment because his young daughter took ill and had to be taken to Dublin for cardiac surgery, which apparently she underwent this morning. We just commit the Reverend Pierce and his family and his daughter to our prayers. And we just ask that you would bless Jackie and Tom as they sing, and Gillian as she speaks to us later on. Jackie and Tom. By the way, you can be here half an hour or 2 minutes, but I've given them carte blanche, and I do it.
I was just about to say that. You told us we could sing as many as we want, but we promised we'll not sing more than two. So it's always to be here, and we do sing to glorify God, and we thank George and Kurt for asking us to sing.
You need a separate microphone? No. You're right. We can't sing now. You've been saying that for years.
We thought we'd start off with a livelier piece, and even though some mornings waking up like this morning, and it's not too hot, complete change from last weekend, but this piece is called Breathe Each Morning with Praise, because it really is wonderful to be able to open our eyes, and first thing we think of is the Lord and all the blessings that He gives us each day. So breathe each morning with praise. Breathe each morning with praise.
This song I based on obviously the 23rd Psalm, and so not much more to say about it, but just tried to write one of that very famous psalm. So we just call it "He Leadeth Me."
Send Gillian a little bit ago, and I've always needed glasses for reading. Still need them sometimes for color print, but discovered since I've got color, I still need to take the glasses off for reading, like the computer screen. First thing I want to say is a big thanks for everybody who came today. It's good to see you all here. I would have liked to see a lot more, but there's no point in preaching to the converted, as it were. You're all here because you're interested in DCF. You're all here because you want to be here. I hope, anyway. I hope it's no conscripts. And it's good to see you all with us today. The other thing is, we've mentioned it already, and we have prayed about the Reverend Pierce and his daughter in Dublin undergoing surgery. And we just hope that all goes well there. The third thing is, of course, today's events are slightly coloured by the fact that we missed, he hasn't been well for quite a long while, we missed now the presence of William Larmour, who passed away just recently, and we commit his family to God's care at this time. Also, as part of the chairman's remarks, our thanks go to Newtownbreda Baptist Church for their permission to use the premises today. It's good. I always think, used to sing in this church with the male voice choir up there. We also used to go out around different churches, and we also went around different festivals. And it's interesting, I always think it's interesting to see how well a church works. Not the people in it, but the architecture. And some churches will have a church and a hall, and on a day like that, going from the church hall to the church or whatever, you get soaked. Some churches, when we were practicing in the hall, people in the church building or people in the kitchen could hear us practice. Others were more detached and more remote. This church, I think, works eventually. It's about the third incarnation of extended, the built bits on here, the built bits on there. Eventually this church works very well. Because the halls over there, and we go here, the minor halls there, and nobody gets wet going from place to place. Well, unless you pass that whole roof. But it works well, and it's good that we're here today, and good that Newtownbreda Baptist will allow us to use their premises. Also, thanks for those who have come to both sing. We've heard Jackie and Tom, and Gillian will be here shortly. Good to participate with us today. And thanks too for our caterers. Did everybody get enough?
Oh, yeah.
Hope you did. If you didn't, it's your own fault. There was loads of stuff there. And thanks for Edith and the catering team for that. And that's all I have to say as regards the chairman's remarks. Now, people's hands up. Maybe not. Disabled Christians Fellowship Annual Conference, Chairman's Report to Conference 2019. I hear the odds in the world don't come home behind, don't worry. I was looking back through some of my files on the computer, and I see 2017, Disabled Christians Fellowship Ireland. Why do we exist? Do we live up to our title? Do we have a future? How do we face the challenges of that future? DCF as it is today. Again, Margaret can verify this. We sent out emails, repeated emails to many branches, and some didn't even bother replying. I think for an organisation that has fellowship in its title, that was very sad. And again, there's no point romantic related to you, because you've come here. And so far, we've had a very lovely and uplifting time. A good meal, a good time of prayer, lovely messages in song from Jackie and Tom, and some great hymns. So I'm not going to complain. But it saddens me that in this fellowship today, with all the modern communication methods we have, branches don't seem to be able to communicate. That's sad. How do we know? So a lot of the challenges we hear and hear and hear all the time. Difficulty in attracting new helpers. Now I have handed out some of these. I'll hand out before we go. I have a report here on last year's prayer and strategy meeting. And at the end of that we have a DCF policy and our mission statement. Here away I never read through it. In the end of it all, if we want our branches to get better, even if we had a general secretary, which we tried out once, even if we had some sort of driving committee or whatever, it's down to yourselves as helpers in the branches. Thankfully, inside Belfast, we have several younger helpers. And thanks to the offices of one of our members, actually, we have 3 new helpers. And they seem, after 3 or 4 hours, to be very enthusiastic. And they're becoming embedded in our team. Doesn't mean to say we're perfect, we still need more helpers. But really, if you say we need more helpers, it's down to yourselves. And as I say, let's look at the positives as well. This is exactly the same things that I spoke about in 2017. I don't think they've changed. But what have we got that's good in our DCF? We've got great fellowship in our branch. At least our branch and other branches as well. Great fellowship, good camaraderie, good pulling together. The food's usually good as well, isn't it? It's good to see members' involvement at times. It's also good to see the fact that we see the gel, that we see the concern for our members. The members who come into our branches to be ministered to aren't just detached people. They're people we've become friendly with. We know their circumstances. We know their families, perhaps. You know, one of our members passed away just the other day, and it felt like a member of the family had gone. Another member passed away a few weeks ago when we attended his funeral, and it was like we were part of the family. And it's not the way it is with DCF. It is a fellowship when it comes to the branch level. These are really good things. You know, I got not really about lots of things. Let's look at the positives. We are confronted by modern world and by legislation. And we just have to pray that God will help us and guide us to do things, get things right with regard to that. So that we can comply with all the legislation. And God's been good to us. Very little incidents of anything serious happening that I know of in our branches. So while we face challenges, while some branches, we used to have 26, Desi alluded to that earlier on, we used to have 26 branches. Now we're down to 19. Before too many years passed, they may be down to 16 or 17. Because some branches are struggling. But for the branches that are here, the branches that are thriving, the branches that are doing all right, let's be positive and say, yes, we will continue, we will be part of the fellowship, we will grow in our strength, and indeed, reach out. One of the problems in our branch is transport. The transport people have said, you can keep the people you've got, but don't go recruiting new members. This is for the buses. Now, you can turn around and say, oh, that's being negative, about that's being discriminatory against Christian organisations. You can say lots of things. But at the same time, we still have new members coming. And we still pray that God will guide and help them. Continue to build up our branch and build up your branches as well. So, no matter what the challenges are, no matter what we face, let's be positive. Let's look forward and seek to be a fellowship. When we have a week of prayer, join with the other branches in fellowship. When we have events like this, be determined to come and have fellowship with Oma and Ballymena and Foyle and all the rest of the branches. The ones that didn't come today are poorer for not fellowshipping together. They're the ones that I'm sad about, because they don't see this as being disabled Christians fellowship. That's what we are. That's what we do. We should fellowship together and show the joy of the Lord in our hearts and our minds. And that's about all I have to say. Thank the Lord for that. Right. Hymn number 315.
I remember as a child being asked when I was about 8 or 9 to read at the Children's Day service. And I was standing up here, I'm so old, it was the days before microphones. So I was standing, the minister went down the back, and I read something, and he came up and said, "There's nothing wrong with your projection." So I have the microphone to help me. It's one of those things I stuck with me. I know for 50 years. Now, I just want to give a short report. We, as a Christian organisation, our main concern is, of course, for the pronouncement of God's message and His wishes and His goodwill that He has, that He wants all of us to be saved and to have eternal life. But we are also a charity, and within it comes legal responsibilities. We did draw up a few years ago the Safeguarding Vulnerable Adults policy, and it was reviewed by the General Committee this year, and no amendments were made. But we have a legal responsibility to bear in mind and keep in mind the physical safety of our members. We have to ensure that those attending the rallies are safe during their time with us, but also during their journey to our rallies, if we have them in our cars or if they're in the buses that we have organised. So we must be careful about the escorting on the buses and the transfer from cars or buses into our meeting room, that everything is okay and that the weather is such and that there's no icy patches and that we have adequate escorts. We also, under that policy and legislation, we are required to have the Access NI enhanced disclosure and barring list check. It's a very catchy term, and this procedure we arranged about 2 years ago to have an umbrella organisation carry that out on our behalf. The Bible-Centred Ministries International UK Trust. Why can't anybody have short words anymore names? And they're based in Lisburn. Now, we couldn't do it ourselves. We could not be an organisation doing it on our own because we don't have sufficient forms going through every year. I think you have to have at least 200 every year. Oh, praise the Lord, that we would have 200 going through every year, but you've heard George saying we don't have enough new members and new helpers to merit that. That police check has to be carried out on everyone over the age of 16 if they're helping. Branch secretaries therefore should be mindful of that if you have young folk coming to help, or if you are blessed with having new volunteers, new helpers, that form must be filled in and kept so that your membership of helpers is kept up to date. Now, information about the process, forms from the BCM, Bible-Centred Ministries, and the necessary forms that are required and guidance can be got directly from Margaret. I think you have them all, or from myself. We'll get them to you if you need them. The cost of the police check is paid centrally by the BCM invoicing Beverly, the General Committee Treasurer. So it doesn't cost you financially, it's just a bother and an effort. And then some of you have asked me over the months, how do we know if people have been processed correctly? The certificates go directly to the individual, so your helper gets it. So you won't be told anything. But if there is a problem and you have a serial murderer or somebody helping out, BCM will be informed and they will follow it up and, if necessary, tell you what you've got in your midst. So the only thing I can say is if you've had people undertaking Access NI recently or in this year, the only thing you can do is ask them if they've got their form. You won't be told as an organisation yourself. And I know this year I have sent out some forms. I don't know whether, Margaret, you've sent any out this year. I will, with Margaret, be asking you as branches to let us know in time for the May General Committee how many of the branches actually have complied with that requirement, legal requirement. Because as a charity, and myself as a trustee, I'm not even sure if I've seen any other trustees here, about Wesley? Yes. We have a requirement and we need to know that our branches are being legally compliant. The other thing that's been thought about at General Committee, but we have decided not to do anything about it at the moment, is doing that process, that Access NI, is only a moment in time. For some of us it's nearly 2 years ago, some of you it's a year ago. It's only a moment in time which tells us at BCM that there is no criminal record in relation to our helpers. We have decided, at the moment, we have not decided to repeat that process because most of the branches we feel that we know our helpers well enough to know if there's an issue arises that would make you question whether or not they're suitable to carry on as a helper. But the General Committee can keep that under review. At the moment, there is no requirement to repeat the process once it's done. And that is the same. The other part of the health and safety policy is the training on moving and handling, safe transfer of people from chairs. We did have, it's hard to believe, it's almost 3 years since we had that training. Some of you came up here to Newtownbreda. Some of us went over to Derry. To Dungannon, did you have one of them? So that's 2.5, coming up in 3 years now. Now, in our policy, there's no requirement. It doesn't say that that has to be repeated. But if you feel you need it, and if you feel you have new helpers, that you would like to have a refresher on that, or an update on that, could you let Margaret know so we can discuss it at the General Committee at the end of May? So, Margaret, I hope you've got a note of all that stuff. So that's where we are at the moment, that's the position we are in, and I hope most of us are compliant on both counts. That's it. All right.
Separate distance glasses somewhere. Bible reading. I'm going to ask you to come and read the Bible to us.
Onto your papers there, George, and not onto those papers. The microphone is
Totally confused to what's new.
Our reading this afternoon is from Luke's Gospel, chapter 24, reading verses 13 to 35. On that same day, the first day of the week, 2 of the apostles were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. When they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and the companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. Thanks be to God.
Their report from the Dungannon branch. See how they're getting on. Right.
The sun was shining in Dungannon.
I know, is it?
Well, that was 3 or 4 days ago. I live in the past down there, it's a bad thing, considering how long the word things are going nowadays. That's great. Our numbers are keeping up reasonably well. We've lost quite a number. Over probably 3 years, we've lost maybe 25 to 30 deaths. But the Lord has replaced those. We're talking about trying to get new helpers. Well, maybe we work back to front. We get people into the branch and you discover that there's often help from Spirit in people. They'll see something they've done and they'll do it. We have a barbecue for the helpers once a year. Now we have usually about 50 in the meetings, maybe 25 or 30 at the helpers barbecue. You see the people who collect hymn books, who give out hymn books, people who live the connection. We try to involve them wherever they are, as part of the body of Christ. Feel it is their branch. Other members are, of course, a bit older. Some are in homes, some are confined in old homes. We still try to keep visitation going with 2 or 3 people who are fairly fit. We do a lot more of that, because we can't go into that often. But it's good to keep that going on today. Our own committee are getting older, like everywhere else, and that's how it goes. But there's still a good spirit amongst them. someone at the table today, you know, they were just itching at the end of the meal to get up and start clearing the table. And we keep that spirit amongst people, well, to help one another. We have a few bits and pieces maybe that were different, or that we do differently. We organise a Christmas dinner for them. We organise it out once a year. And again, the trip sometimes is a means of getting others around. We don't come to DCF, but occasionally come from that. You make people aware, friends, different people come. And there's people come from County Antrim on our bus trip every year. But they get to know about DCF, and they get to know about it in their own. So you can try and reach out in various ways. Part of that was subsidised when you run a stall, you know, a market stall every month. She ties up junk, all sorts of stuff and sells it. Not a problem. And then someone brings it back the next month and it's done all over again. That's how each stall goes. And that probably contributes to maybe half our income in the year. There's other things that have happened. We have had a few anonymous gifts, some sizable ones, and we've tithed those and sort of blessed others through those. We had an anonymous gift of a brand new wheelchair. That's usually when we take them out on the trip, as people remember, not to find a wheelchair, but don't walk that far. So we find that the Lord has given us those wee things. Our transport seems to be different to everybody else as we work through community transport with the bus outside there today. And basically any time we want to go anywhere, I just ring them, say we need the bus such a time, we need space for 2 wheelchairs, 3 wheelchairs, and some of 2 or 3 people who can drive there. I'm not sure why I come to the end of the driving life there now, because this change will come out when we reach 70, so I might have to step down. We're going to put for a new driver there as well. We send out a new sheet each month, and that keeps them up to date. People are sick, they need prayer, keeps up to date with whatever's happened at the conference today, feedback to them, get feedback to them, all the things that are happening here and there. Those who would visit around their homes or wherever, they can get their new sheet, and that keeps them as well. We also have been, Claire and myself, are involved in meetings here and there. We took a meeting over in Bangor branch. We're trying to get other branches at times to come and take our meeting, and I find that's difficult. Partly because, obviously, some of them meet the same Saturdays ourselves, others don't. But it's an area, again, where we can fellowship with one another. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to be brilliant speakers or singers. You get a group together and take another branch, or get another branch to come to you whenever you're finding difficulty with speakers. We're also involved in Longfield from time to time. We're down the first 3 days of this week. We couldn't do these the weekend, but we're down for 3 days. It is a spiritual battle, those meetings, and we'll be doing one of the holidays later, and they are a spiritual battle. You start off with small numbers, 16 in the home, and when you take out permanent residents and folk who won't come to the meeting, if you get 6, 7 at their meeting, well, you're doing fairly well. But we're encouraged as the days went on. Particularly we had a Roman Catholic woman there, and she didn't come the first 2 days, but then she got talking to us, she asked us to pray with her, and she came into the meeting on the Wednesday evening. I spoke on the thief, and then very simple for her. Pointed out that he was a man who had done no good works, had not been baptized, hadn't gone through any of the sacraments, hadn't paid into his church, had done none of those things that many people consider necessary to salvation. They simply turned to Christ and saw him one who was a perfect man, who was and one who got the assurance that day that today he was in the paradise. There was no waiting. And was able to, well, gently undermine the with which she'd been brought up with. And she told me afterwards she enjoyed it. So we do get the encouragements. We ask you to pray on for that woman Michelle, and for others there that need that. And again, as we go back down during the holiday. I think that's roughly what's happening in Ghana. Just some things are slightly different. and we just try and include everybody and somehow pull it together and hopefully keep things moving along.
Thanks very much. One wee point was raised there on the 70 threshold for driving minibuses. Some people seem to see that as a bar, and it can be. Not go through all the details at the moment, but we've come through a process like that. If you have got categories on your driving licence previously or now up until the age of 70, when you get a new licence, they will automatically be removed. However, you can apply for them to be reinstated under grandfather rights. So if you've had your driving licence for a fair few years and you've been driving a minibus and you still feel well enough to drive a minibus, apply for that. You will have to go through a medical and it will cost you money, but they can be restored under what they call grandfather rights without having to do a test or anything like that there. And you can get, especially C1E, which allows you to drive a minibus or anything up to about 7 tonnes. Just to be mentioned that, because we've gone through a process we got recently.
Depends on the insurance.
It does depend on insurance as well, but if you're...
Put off an insurance.
no, but if the thing is, Wesley, if you can tell the insurance company that you've gone through your medical and that you've been reinstated as C or C1E or whatever the category happens to be, they may lose the premiums, but they will probably grant you insurance. It's not a bar completely because you haven't got them on your license and get them reinstated. So that's just a wee bit of clarification that wasn't on the script. Stuart, Jackie and Tom.
I always have the children's song we sing in our church, Jesus Love is Very Wonderful, and so high you can't get over it, it's so low you can't get under it, and so wide you can't get around it, oh wonderful love. And this piece is called Impossible Love, and really just speaks for itself if you listen to the words.
Impossible love, how can it be true that Jesus would leave his home up above for me and for you? Incredible love, oh how
This song is called The Answer is the Cross. And when I came to write it, was just thinking about that, just all the problems we have in life. And if we really are true believers, then the answer is the cross, to the cross. So that's the answer is the cross.
The song of life so certain, we can't know the song we'll sing, for we can't see tomorrow, nor what today may bring. Sometimes we'll cry and question why life does what it does. My God, there is an answer. The answer is the cross. The song of life will test us. It's a song we each must share. Where is the rhyme or reason when life is so unfair? Where can we find the answer when everything seems lost? Place your trust in Jesus. The answer is the cross. The answer is that Jesus is the answer. And we can put our trust in Him because on the cross He answered all life's questions. The cross is the answer. The answer is the cross. So sing the song I've sent you. Only you can sing your song. Somewhere unseen, the grace will come to help you to be strong. God provides the answer. Only He can know the cause. So we can face tomorrow. The answer is the cross. The answer is that Jesus is the answer. And we can put our trust in Him because on the cross He answered all life's questions. The cross is the answer. The answer is the cross. So sing the song I've sent you. Only you can sing your song. Somewhere unseen, the grace will come to help you to be strong. God provides the answer. Only He can know the cause. So we can face tomorrow. The answer is the cross. So we can face tomorrow. The answer is the cross.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks very much. I think we've appreciated and enjoyed Jackie and Tom's messages and song. Hymn number 200. Well-known one, this great is thy faithfulness. We trust God for His faithfulness in DCFI.
Thy
had surgery this morning, and maybe you could continue to remember her in your prayers, because she will need another procedure in about 5 days' time. So thank you so much indeed, and I will pass on to Canon Jonathan Pierce your thoughtfulness and your prayers. Just like to say that although I'm a last-minute stand-in for Jonathan, I regard it a privilege to be a part of your day, and especially to share with you in this time of worship. Let's just start with a short prayer. Oh God, as we come before you now, help us to listen to your word with understanding, to receive it with faith, and to obey it with courage, for Christ's sake. Amen. I wonder, are there times in your life when it seems that everything is becoming too much? If you can say no this afternoon, then that's wonderful, but it may not always be that way. For many of us, there are those times when there are too many stresses, too many things that crave our attention, too many worries, too many things going wrong at the same time. And when we are like this, we lose confidence in ourselves. We become sad and angry and frustrated. We tend to be less patient. We tend to be sharper in our speech. And we forget about other people's feelings because our feelings of hurt are so dominant. Sometimes we keep busy so that we don't have to face the sadness or the worries. But these things confront us eventually. When we're asked by friends, "How are you doing?" we automatically reply, "Fine, thanks," knowing full well that no one would thank us for unloading our misery on them. Of course, I've generalised here quite a bit, and maybe exaggerated for some people, because not everyone experiences sadness and stress in the same way. But it's a fact that sadness and sorrow are normal parts of life, even though we may want to hide them from others. Grief is normal. Stress in our troubled world is normal. Worry about the future is normal. The frustration that comes with stress and worry is normal. Anger at the way the events in our life have turned out is normal. Now, none of these are desirable, but they are part of living in this broken world. Today, in our Bible reading, we hear of two men who are sad, gloomy, somber, and even somewhat angry when they answer the stranger's question with, "Are you the only visitor in Jerusalem who doesn't know what's been going on these last few days?" It's interesting to note that throughout Jesus' ministry, he never avoided confronting hardship and connecting with people who were in the middle of the sadness and grief and trouble of this life. Jesus wept with those who were weeping. He embraced the sick, the depressed, the lonely, the grieving, and the dying. He didn't turn away from the angry or the frustrated, or lose patience with those who spoke unkindly, or acted without thinking like Peter did so often. As a human in this world, Jesus endured sadness, sorrow, grief, stress, frustration, and anger, and how they affected his mind and body. And he knows what these things do to us. He knows what we're going through. And so we see a stranger whom we know to be Jesus, walking with 2 disciples on the way to Emmaus on the evening of Easter Day. Jesus listens as they unload and tell him everything that happened over the weekend. When they're finished, the stranger explains lots of things about the Messiah from the Old Testament, and how this was a fulfillment of what the prophets had promised. But the disciples didn't get it. They couldn't see past the gloom and sadness and grief that had happened the past days, and recognise that it could possibly be true that Jesus was actually right there beside them. It was only when they were at dinner that night and the stranger took some bread, blessed it and broke it, that finally the penny dropped. They had heard that voice speak those words before. They had seen those hands break bread before. And maybe as they watched him break the bread, they noticed the scars on his hands. And at that moment, Jesus disappeared. Their gloom and sadness was instantly turned into joy. They couldn't get back to Jerusalem quickly enough to tell the others what they had just experienced. In this post-Easter period, I like the way Jesus comes to his disciples and his other friends. Some are shrouded in grief. Others are filled with fear. Some are doubters and not knowing what to think anymore. Some are confused about the past and the direction of the future. And Jesus talks with them, or sits down and has a meal with them. And today, he walks with them. For me this week, the image of Jesus walking with his disciples in the sadness and gloom has been especially meaningful. Even when they didn't realize it was Jesus walking with them, he continued to walk beside them, listening to their story, no doubt listening to their gripes and feeling their pain. You know, this story is about the meaning of Easter for us. And the everyday stuff that we find ourselves involved in, that somehow we wish would all go away, but it won't. Somehow we need to find the strength and courage to endure it and to keep on going. And Easter provides us with the answer. When we are feeling gloomy and sad about what has happened, when we're anxious and worried, we have a loving Saviour who is walking the road of stress and trouble with us. He knows what that road is like. He's walked it before. He's felt the sadness, the grief, the stress, and the pain. He knows what despair is because he felt forsaken on the cross. He overcame death, and he's come through all that victorious. He knew how those disciples were feeling, and he knows what's in our hearts. He is walking that road with us now. We might not even realize it, like the disciples on the Emmaus road, but he's there. He has given us the Easter victory, that we too can overcome all that scares us and shatters our lives, because we are the Lord's, and we belong to him through his death and resurrection. When we were baptized, Jesus made a covenant with us to walk with us in our journey through life, to care for us, to comfort us, to show his great love for us in our daily lives. Even though our feelings of stress and grief may tell us at times that Jesus doesn't care or that no one understands, nevertheless, we trust in that promise of Jesus made at our baptism. We trust in that promise. It's good to know his love and be comforted by the knowledge that everything is in his hands, even though from our perspective, everything has gone pear-shaped. And because of this, we can then appreciate what it's like when we see others struggle with the stresses of life. It is just then that we are called on to be Jesus to that person and walk with that person down there Emmaus Road. That is why he has placed us in the church, to be a caring community who look after the needs of one another and anyone who has a need, to serve one another. That is why Paul says in 2 Corinthians, he comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. Paul is saying that if we have experienced comfort and strength from God, then it's a joy to be able to help others who are going through similar situations, because we know what relief God's comfort and help has brought to us. Be Christ to others. Be there for others when they are sad or sick or depressed. Don't leave it to someone else. And don't be worried that you won't know what to say. Very often, just being there is all that is required. Or write a note, or send a thinking of you card. This story about Jesus walking with those sad disciples to Emmaus could be our story today, as Jesus walks with us in whatever it is that troubles us. If you are walking the Emmaus Road right now, or when you walk it in the future, just remember one thing. You are not walking alone. Amen.
Thank you, Graham. We appreciate that word. Now we finish off with hymn number 501. to our churches, to DCF, Lord, that you may be our guide and our help. And now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit rest and abide with each one of us, now and always. Amen. I've lost my